So, guys, thank you for joining me for this sort of question and answer and this general talk on for University Mental Health Day. Just to start off with, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, Dan, if you want to just give a brief of your sort of your role at the university, what you do, how long you've been at the university in general.
Yeah, no worries. So I've been at the university now for 13 and a half years, I think it is, so quite a long time. My current role at the university now is the operations manager of WLV Sport. So I look after all of mainly the fitness side, community-based activities that go on, as well as all the operational things that take place in the background. So make sure that the maintenance is up to date, health and safety, customer experience, memberships, and all of that kind of thing at the sports centre.
Thanks, Dan. And yourself, Ariana?
Yeah, so I've been there a little less than 13 years. I've been in the role since December. I'm the new sports workforce coordinator, so working with predominantly the sports students with WLV Sport and the academic side as well. So it's sort of bridging that link. So yeah, about 2.5 months in.
I bet it's flew by, hasn't it, Ariana?
Yeah, considering I've been in my kitchen for the whole entire time, yeah, it has gone pretty quick.
Good. And just to let those know who don't know, my name's Lee Hardwick. I also work for WLV Sport, and I'm a sports development officer. And I've been at the university for about 7 years, so I'm sort of in the middle of you two, at opposite ends of the scale.
Makes me feel old now.
So, obviously, we're talking today about University Mental Health Day, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on a few things. And we'll start off by just saying, obviously, on Monday, 21st of February, Boris announced the roadmap for coming out of lockdown, which is quite positive. I just wanted to get your general thoughts on that news.
Yeah, I mean, for me, just to jump straight in there, I think it was really good news. With working and stuff from home and working through all of the previous lockdowns, it's not been sort of like a massive change for me work-wise. Like I've probably had more work, more than anything. But, you know, it provides us hope, especially in terms of the leisure industry and getting people back for their fitness goals. It's great news, really.
Yeah, and I'm proper excited. I know everybody else that of my friends and family are too. Obviously it gives us at the moment, it gives us, I know it's not guaranteed, but we've got a date to look forward to. And I think people be just even more motivated to even take up sport, I think, after when we come out. And you know, for me, it's actually working at my desk in the office.
That will be nice, won't it? I mean, I don't think I've been working in the office for almost 12 months now. And obviously we've had 3 or 4 lockdowns imposed in that time. Just sort of, from my understanding, how have you found all 3 sort of lockdowns? If we say that there's been three sort of main lockdowns in general, has there been peaks and troughs, or have you found any of the lockdowns tougher than the early lockdowns, as I say?
Yeah, I mean, within my role, you know, I touched on it briefly. There's been ups and downs, I guess, with it. It can be quite stressful from home, you know, because there's a number of different factors, and the fact that you've got to adapt from sort of working in an office where you're used to seeing people left, right, and centre, especially in an operational role. You know, there's a lot of work that is passed around, and people deal with this, people deal with that. But yeah, it's been quite stressful. I mean, the good news, I guess, is the government schemes such as furlough. It's great for people that, you know, are sort of worried about what could be happening with their finances and things like that. And I think the furlough scheme is something that's, you know, worked wonders for people in that aspect of it. But I guess it's just adapting to the new ways of working. And, you know, for me, it's involved taking on like more tasks, probably more than ever. So in terms of dealing with it, it's been stressful, but at the same time, it's been a good challenge for me and a way to kind of, you know, give myself a bit of a pat on the back that things are still coming together at the same time.
Yeah. For me, obviously, it was a bit strange because I came back to the UK. I was working in Saudi Arabia. I came back in April, just about, on a special sort of government flight that the British Embassy put on. So yeah, I was working there for a year. Everything in lockdown when I arrived. Obviously, I hadn't seen my family or friends since Christmas when I'd visited. And yeah, and I didn't know when I was going to see them next. Now we're in this, full on lockdown, not really a date and end as well at that point. So for me, obviously, I wasn't working, and to try and find work in the sport and fitness industry during that was obviously useless. So it was just more about just creating a routine, and just making sure that I'm not, having lions every single day and waking up at 12 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Just trying to keep that routine, especially when you're in sort of the fitness industry. Routine is kind of everything, and it keeps you on track, especially mentally too. And then obviously focusing on training, I was applying for jobs, and then sort of personal development. So it really gave me personally, it gave me time to read books, take up meditation, things that I wouldn't normally do if I was working my normal job. So yeah, I was quite grateful for it. After a while, obviously, it does get to you, and then coming in and out of the lockdowns, and then again trying to apply for jobs and knowing that like hundred thousands of others are doing it too can get quite draining. So it's just like I said, it's just finding that focus, finding that routine, and that's kind of what gets you out of it. And not trying to go above and beyond. You can't be so hard on yourself just because you didn't do this day or that day. It's trying to find that balance, really.
Yeah. Do you think it was simpler to sort of start a new routine from scratch, Ariana? Obviously, you said you was in Saudi Arabia until
Yeah.
April, so you hadn't sort of been not used to the lifestyle or have a routine in the UK, but coming
Yeah.
back over, it was more or less like a fresh start for you anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it kind of was. It was like a holiday actually. So it was like I've been working my butt off for the past 12 months, like crazy hours, 6 days a week, things like that. So for me, it was like coming back, and it was really nice to kind of like just press that restart button. So I didn't look at it in a negative way. I thought this is actually positive. So, you can really focus on yourself. And as much as, you want to go out with your friends and you want to see this and you want to do that, it's almost like you're forced into focusing on you and creating that routine. So in a way, that's the positive spin on it anyways, for people like myself.
I was going to say sometimes you just have to look at it in a positive light, don't you? I mean,
Yeah.
we can take the negatives out of things all days, but it's quite hard sometimes to take the positives.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially in this.
You got to be grateful that you've got a roof over your head, still got food in your tummy, you got, and we were so lucky with the weather as well, so you could get out and go for those walks, go to the park and things like that. Where in some countries, like in Saudi, you can't just walk on. There's no pavements in Saudi Arabia. Women have to wear abayas. It's 50 degrees out there. It's like it's not fun to go outside. So imagine just being stuck in like an apartment or a house all that time. So yeah, I think in this country we were very, very lucky.
That's it. And I think referring back to sort of my earlier question, really, I think that's why people have found sort of the latest lockdown the toughest lockdown. Because, like you say, in April through the summer, we had the nice weather, whereas more recent times we've had more snow than sort of I can remember. Cold
Yeah.
weather. I mean, we had quite a little bit of a sort of reprieve from the cold weather, but it seems to have come back now and set to stay for a little bit longer. But
Yeah.
hopefully, we've sort of the announcement last week. There's some good news on the horizon.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so just going back again, just to your answer, and you spoke about you were able to start meditation classes, yoga classes, stuff like that. Obviously, the fitness and sports industry as a whole has had to adapt massively due to sort of centre closures, not being able to get out and exercise in groups and stuff like that. I just wanted to find out what sort of things you'd taken part in from home, and I mean, everyone's heard of sort of the Joel Wicks classes. Did any of you take part in those? Have you done any virtual challenges, live fitness classes? I just want to hear from you guys what you've been up to, really. Dan, if you want to go first on this one.
Yeah, no. So I've taken part in a few sort of live exercise classes and pre-recorded ones. I know, like for instance, we started a YouTube channel not long ago at WLV Sport, and you can sort of go on there and still do a workout of some sort. Admittedly, it's been very hard to adapt to home workouts, as you can imagine. It's kind of a different environment, sort of, or sort of people that are used to going to the gym, like Ariana mentions about that routine. There is a disruption there, so it's kind of like a shock to the system of like, hang on a minute, I've now got to do this workout in a different environment. And for someone like me, I really like that environment. I like hearing the weights clang. I like being in that sort of environment. So doing it from home in your sort of living room where you used to kind of chillaxing, I like to call it, is very sort of difficult, especially with the sort of goals that I'm try and achieve, which are normally around muscle gain, muscle mass. You need weight to do that. It's very hard to achieve that without it, whether it be psychologically. It's just something that I really struggled to get my head around. I really wanted to be in there lifting as much as I could, but when you're at home and you're sort of thinking, if I drop this on the floor, it's probably going to break my floorboards and I'm going to have another problem. And then obviously the challenge of not having any equipment at home as well. So like leg presses, Smith machines, bench presses, you just, I'm not fortunate enough to have anything like that. So it has been difficult, but I have tried to utilize things that we've been doing, sort of like the live classes. I haven't personally done Joe Wicks, but, I heard he's doing amazing things for people. And, he's kind of changed the whole fitness industry really from what he's been doing at home. So it's great, really, not just for our community at WLV Sport, but for everyone, that people can still take part in some physical activity and there's something structured for them to try. So yeah.
Like if I had kids, Joe Wicks would be on every day, 100%. I actually did the Joe Wicks, his plan before, or like the pandemic and everything. He has like a 3-month plan, and it's quite good. So yeah, like 100% rate what he's done for the nation. And for me personally though, like I can teach virtual classes, I love it, but to actually take part in them, I don't get the same satisfaction as if I'm, in the gym or do my own workout, because I love to just put my headphones in and listen to really loud music and, do my own thing. So I'm on like the other spectrum of it, but I also understand how much people appreciate having that other person on the other side of the phone, the laptop, the iPad, whatever, because it does just give them that guidance, because not everybody obviously is a qualified instructor or whatever. So I think from a participant's view, I think it really did help. And obviously it's helped gyms now understand that technology is needed, and they're going to have more access to people and members by having these virtual things, because there's people that don't want to go to the fitness classes. They'll buy all the equipment, and I know a lot of clients that have, but they won't go into the classes. They're very intimidated. They feel they're not, on par with the other participants in the class. So I really do feel that the gym industry and the fitness industry is going to tap into a lot more users now that we have apps and YouTube pages and things like that for people to have access to.
Yeah. And it can only be a good thing, really, can't it? Because, like I say, you've mentioned there, Dan, that although you've had the option to do it and the availability to do it because of the various stuff that's been put out there, it's quite difficult, really, because the gym is an escape for people from their reality. And although sort of you haven't got children or any of those sort of commitments, other people have. And for other people, that will be their barrier to sort of exercise at home.
Yeah.
Do you both see the fitness sort of industry continuing with this online offer in addition to when we reopen?
Yeah, 100%. I think that they'll be definitely offering it. It may not be on the same scale that it is now, but there'll definitely be like banks of videos that they can access. 100%.
Well, that's it. There's already tons and tons of sort of videos, whether it's on YouTube or any other platforms, isn't there, that people can access from wherever and just take part in any sort of exercise, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so just moving on slightly. All I wanted to find out from you two, sorry, was sort of what have been your survival techniques. I know you've touched on exercise quite a lot. Ariana, you mentioned routine was a big one. Does diet come into it at all, or what other sort of techniques have you used?
Yeah, basically
carry on with this one.
sticking to alcohol on the weekends, not the weekdays. If you do drink, trying to keep to what you would normally, like if you're working 9 till 5 Monday to Friday, you're not normally opening up and finishing a bottle of wine. But in lockdown, it's like it was just like, oh, the sun's out, I'm gonna grab some ciders, and then next thing you know,
8 o'clock in the morning, Ariana.
Say that again.
8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Opening the bottle at 8, yeah. It doesn't. And also, like, from my point of view, because when you're unemployed and you're not working, it's also like, well, why not? Like, I've got nothing to do tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I think for me, the diet, 100%, like just trying to keep that in control as normal, and then like I said, creating that routine, and for me it was the meditation that really helped. So that kind of set me for my day. So I started doing that in the mornings. Just started like this 21-day 5-minute thing, because I really wasn't I could never do anything like that before. And then because I had the time and I didn't have time as my pressure, I was like able to do it. And then now I'm working and things, I'm still doing it. I still make time for it. I'll get up earlier if I have to, because I know how much that benefits me with my perspective of the day.
No, completely makes sense, Ariana. And what about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, very similar really to what Ariana's saying. I mean, I probably didn't go down the route of meditation as much. However, I have tried things like that in the past, which are great to kind of just, stick some earphones in my case it was, and just relax. I was very used to in a previous life, when I was a keen into bodybuilding and things like that, was very much about a strict routine of diet. So, and nobody would stop me from eating at the times that I had. I'd be carrying a big bag full of different meals that chuck them in the microwave, and it's all weighed out to the perfect calorie makeup of carbs, fats, protein, you name it. And for me, that kind of kept me sort of on track, and it became addictive. As much as you're going through the motions, and then you're restricting carbs, then putting them back in, and all the different moods it brings. It was great seeing the results that you can start seeing daily. So for me, I try and readapt that into this sort of environment of lockdown and things like that. But I'm very old school as well. So although I like things like apps like MyFitnessPal and things where you can sort of scan all your foods in and stuff, I'm very old school. So like I've got a little A5 book where I literally write absolutely everything down. And for me, it's kind of a way of getting it out of my head, so that I'm not having to worry about it. And if I need to check on it, it's there. So I know that I've got to have this meal at this time. And, I factor in things like, right, these 2 hours on a weekend are for dedicated to cooking all of those 16 meals or whatever it will be. And I found that has always sort of worked for me. And I've really taken that concept into my own personal life as well. So when it comes to working and I've got X amount of tasks that I've got to do, I write it down. So it's not up here, and it's not thinking, have I done this? Have I done this? It's a case of, there it is. I can see it for what it is, and then I can prioritize what I need to do and what needs doing first, in other words. And it kind of helps me cope, really. So that's one of my survival techniques. As well, like one big thing that I self-reflected on was to make sure that, especially during lockdown, that I am having the breaks that I should be having. So throughout my day, it's not a case of, I used to be a workaholic. That's the only way I can explain it. I think I had that mentality of like, if I'm awake and ready to go, I'm going to try and get everything done, get it out the way. Then I'll think about relaxing and whatever. Whereas now I've found it actually more productive that, I am getting all of those tasks in a priority, but I will factor in that break. So whether it be going out and getting some vitamin D into my system and getting out there rather than kind of sitting at home between four walls, the same thing, eyes on the screen all the time. My eyesight's not the greatest at the best of times, hence these little aids on my head. But, like you do find that sometimes you can be sitting at your computer thinking, wow, I've been looking at this screen for such a long time. And, it really can affect you. So they're sort of my survival techniques to just get out there and go. And it doesn't have to be long either. You haven't got to go walking for 3-4 hours, even if it's for 20 minutes. Just get out there, do something. Another thing I found, because when I first started lockdown, the immediate worry is I'm just going to gain loads of weight because I'm sitting here, I'm doing nothing. Although I would consider myself in an active lifestyle, it's now become sedentary because I'm sitting at a computer, and you do become mindful of that. So every now and again, it sounds silly, but I'll go and do laps up and down the stairs to make sure that I'm getting things moving, and I'm burning some calories in some sort of fashion, rather than kind of sitting in this stance. Posture as the day goes on starts coming more and more like this as you get tired. So there's a number of different things that it kind of triggers it, really. And I guess that comes from experience, in a way, from what I've done previously, to kind of know how my body's adapting and changing. But I think it can be misled by people that just sit there and they get very used to being like, oh, this is the norm now. But yeah, so that's kind of like an insight into some of the survival techniques I use. But a lot of it has been helpful that I've been able to bring it from a previous experience as well.
Yeah. And like you say, those are the survival techniques that you've used, and you touched on the survival techniques that you've used, Ariana. But I suppose, to summarize, sort of, if you was to summarize all of that, what would be your sort of top tip for helping others in the same sort of?
Yeah, mine would 100% be, you set yourself daily goals. So, whether it be you write a list of the things you plan to do that day, or whatever it is, even if it's just one goal or one intention for that day. And then it might be just to complete a 20 minutes Joe Wick session. Or for me, it was like trying to, it was quite ambitious at the beginning of lockdown, but 10K steps a day, because I was doing 15K when I was working and active. So I thought, okay, let's take it down to 10. And even that was really difficult. I'd have to train and go for about an hour's walk, do about 5K to get that in. And that's not possible every day. And try not to overindulge, regulate your treats. I started thinking of creative versions of what I like, but healthier versions of it. Again, that's just because I had the time to. And just experimenting. And then for me as well, it was like just not getting stuck into social media, because being on that, you literally can just be scrolling, and you've got Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, like there's just so much. And then your LinkedIn as well. So you're just comparing yourselves, and that's what kind of brings you down, I think, a little bit. And for me, I literally deleted my Instagram for 3 months, just because I had enough of like seeing how other people try to portray their life when probably it's not like that. And it was kind of just getting me down in the end. So I was like, no, for my own mental health, that's what I chose to do. And even now I'll limit what I do on there, just for my own insanity. Yeah, insanity, sanity.
No, completely understand that. And what about yourself, Dan?
Yes, I mean, again, similar to Ariana, really, as she mentions about social media, and I guess even looking back into my life, you always try and be somebody else, and I think it's important that the only person that you should be trying to be is yourself. At the end of the day, it's your life, it's your goals, and it's your progress. So you can only really measure it against what you've got, not based on what people are doing on Instagram and things like that. And like Ariana touches on there, I mean, you're starting to see like social media posts now where people are they're not doing all this particular lighting and angles and things like that to make them look amazing on social media. They're kind of posting it as it is, which I think is good. There's a whole other politics around sort of advertising and media and what people represent certain brands and things like that. And it can be a real put off, and you can really kind of look at yourself and get yourself down for it. But at the end of the day, if you've gone from doing nothing to even 10 minutes a day, that is progress, and that's amazing progress, because if you keep trying to put yourself into somebody else's, you won't get there. I'll be honest with you, because I hear it a lot when I was personal training. They'll be, I want to look like this, and it is explaining to them that, you know, you've got to understand that everybody is different, everybody's circumstances is different, everybody's lifestyle is different, what they do and what other people do. I mean, you'll get certain body types that say, you know, we call it like an ectomorph in the fitness industry, and they want to be like a strong man and be eating so many thousands of calories, and it's not doable for them. And it's about understanding that process, but you've got to really assess yourself and say, this is where I am now, how can I make it better? And like Ariana says, set daily goals, and they don't need to be things that are huge goals. You know, it's not like I'm going to go run a marathon every day. It's not about that. It's about little steps, you know. And even with marathons, if you look at the training concepts of that, you know, day one, you don't go and run that marathon. You do small little snippets up until where you want to be. And then I guess my other top tip is, like, there are things that, you know, if you've got that busy lifestyle, if you are working from home, studying or whatever, there are little apps and things that you can get. So for me, hydration is massive. And, you know, I'm sitting there while I'm drinking coffee now. My problem is drinking lots of coffee and probably should be drinking more water. And there's an app that I use that pops up every couple of hours that says your body needs water. And just those little triggers, it's like, oh yeah, I'll go down and get a drink, glass of water. And those little things can really help you. And there's so many like apps and stuff out there. And, you know, it doesn't just have to be around fitness, how Ariana was talking about being on social media loads. I mean, every now and again, your phone will say you're down on your screen time, you're up on your screen time. And little things like that are good triggers to kind of go, actually, no, I'm going to set my goal. So I'm going to reduce that time now. I'm going to get outdoors more. I'm going to speak to family more. And, you know, those little steps will slowly, you know, at first it's going to feel like things aren't happening, things aren't changing. But give it a week, give it a couple of weeks, and you'll start seeing that, oh, actually, especially if you wrote it down, it says, I've gone from there to there, you'll see how much better you feel straight away, and it will do wonders for you.
No, completely agree with everything that you've both just said. And I just sort of want to touch upon the social media aspects. And I suppose that a lot of people don't sort of understand or realise that when you're looking on social media, scrolling through social media, and when you're comparing yourself to others, that people aren't going to post about the depressing part of their lives or what's going wrong in their lives. I mean, you can be sat there and you can be miserable, and people will post something that generally makes them happier, but you'll see that image then, or that video or whatever it is, and just presume that they're living this happy life and making most of it, whereas it doesn't always paint the picture, does it?
Yeah, definitely.
But it's interesting because there's been a lot of talk about sort of technology fatigue as well, hasn't there? I don't know. Some technology is good, like you say, Dan, with those hydration apps. I mean, for anyone who's got an Apple Watch as well, it encourages you several times throughout the day to stand up and get moving, and encourages those sort of breathing techniques as well to help you relax. So it's about embracing some parts of technology, but then switching off in other aspects as well, isn't it? I mean, like you both mentioned, working from home, you haven't even got the comfort of walking out your office for 5, having a chat to a colleague for 5 minutes without the use of technology. Whereas at the moment, we're constantly in front of technology all the time.
Definitely. I think as well, Liam, that point that you've said there, even the people that are posting these things, I think it's important to understand that they could be struggling as well. Because you do find that those sort of people, or influencers as it were, they're kind of like, they'll put a post on and they're thinking, well, if I'm not getting more than 100 likes, I'm doing something wrong. And it's like they're basing their measurements off a reaction, and it shouldn't be. The only reaction they should be concerned about is themselves, and have I achieved what I've set out to be, and what am I. If my goal was to make my bed each morning so that I've done something productive, I can tick that off and say, yeah, but I haven't then got to expect 100, 150 people to tell me, oh yeah, that's good, and you can start measuring yourself based on interactions, and it's not a healthy sort of way of doing it, to be honest with you. And a lot of these influencers and brands, you've got to understand that brands are pulling in a lot of their reach. So unless you're accustomed to that, you're not going to get that sort of thing. And there's no sort of, you know, way of quantifying it and make it right. Because if you set yourself out there, I want to get X amount of followers, it's not, people are thinking, well, because they're doing it and they're getting that lifestyle, they're thinking, oh, they're getting paid because of all of this stuff. And a lot of it's fabricated anyway. You know, you see people posing with nice cars and things like that, and it's just been rented for a photo shoot. Do you know what I mean? And people aren't always understanding the background behind it. You know, and social media, it's, don't get me wrong, it's got a lot of benefits. And like you've just mentioned about meeting with family, friends, you know, you got Zoom that's kind of changed everything, and you can have free calls with family in times like this. But it is important that you switch off if it's too much, or you're finding that you're measuring yourself against it.
No, completely. Dan, I think it's a very valid point. There's sort of been, over the years, been so many high-profile cases where, just as a quick example, if you take Robin Williams, for example, most of his films that he acted in were comedies, and he played that sort of comedian role in them. But behind that, he was really sort of sad and depressed and had all these issues going on behind the scenes, which he wouldn't portray to the public. He kept those all to himself. So another case of it is he's being able to sort of go out and speak about your problems, find somebody who you trust, whether that's a friend or family member, and don't sort of keep it as a burden on yourself.
Yeah, definitely, Lee. And I think it's important that, you know, you understand that, you know, that expression of everybody's in the same boat, it doesn't exist. Because, you know, like, my boat could be, well, I've got my job, I'm still working, I'm still getting income coming in. Somebody else's boat is, you know what, I've just lost my job, I don't know what to do. How am I going to find the next meal on the table? So the expression that I use is everybody's in the same storm, but everybody's boat's different. And it is important that you do speak to those people. You know, if you're getting any sort of feelings of doubt or whatever, and you're not coping, you've got to reach out there. And, you know, I'm saying this as a guy, like, I've suffered with stuff previously, and I was very much, you know, being in that bodybuilding mentality and that macho sort of stigma that comes along with it. You don't want to tell people that you're struggling, but you won't get better until you speak. And, you know, you choose a person that you know you can trust, and somebody that's going to have an open floor for you. But it is so important that you do that if you're struggling. That is probably the top trump of all of this, really. You know, anything like where you're having thoughts of doubts or whatever, it's really important that you reach out. And it can be to anybody, you know, but just make sure you speak to someone.
That's it. And I do think on that it's only when you start talking to other people that you realise there are similarities in how you feel, what challenges you've come across, and how you cope with those challenges, really, and take things from other people. And like you say, everyone's not in the same boat, but there will certainly be similarities on the challenges that they faced and how they've coped with it that you can take from other people. I suppose on that note, what I wanted to ask was sort of over the last 12 months, what do you guys see has been your biggest challenge, and how have you overcome this?
Well, for me, it was motivation for anything, really, because obviously I've come into a new environment, I've come into a new country. For the first time in my entire working life, I've been working since I was 16. I'm now 31 this year, 32. And I was obviously struggling to find a job. And even jobs that were kind of like below my level of experience and knowledge, I wasn't even getting a look into. Do you know what I mean? I was having to contend with like thousands of people who've been made redundant, furloughed, recent graduates as well. Because you imagine coming in April, like May, June, they're all finishing their degrees. So got all these people coming into this industry, and then obviously, it was hard, and it makes you question your own capabilities as well. Makes you think, are you know, am I not good enough? Why can't I get this job, or why are they not giving me the interview? Do you know what I mean? So I just kept pushing. I kept, you know, I accept the rejections. I actually got to the point where I was happy to get a rejection, because there was jobs where I wasn't even getting a rejection. It was like blank, nothing. So the fact that you get a rejection started turning into a positive, because they've actually took the time to read and reply back to you. So yeah, I started pushing with that. And then obviously I did my meditation course. That really helped me. And it sort of did give me a positive outlook on things like accepting those rejections. And I just became very grateful for what I had rather than what I didn't have. And then eventually, so obviously I always push LinkedIn, you know, for professional networking, and was on there, found this job on LinkedIn, and yeah, I'm here today. And it's, although it's not something I expected, I'm actually really glad that I've come into it, because I was lost in what direction I wanted to go in. I knew that I didn't want to work the 15-hour days in the gym anymore. I didn't want to do that. I definitely wanted to come away from it. And obviously with my experience and kind of, you know, throughout the industry, I think now with this role that I've got, it really will benefit others. So it all comes, I believe in like karma, and I believe like all things happen for a reason, stuff like that. And I do believe like I'm here today because of, you know, the last, say, almost 12 months. It's now put me into this position, and I'm happy. So
Yeah, and I suppose with those sort of rejections, as you say, Ariana, I suppose it's quite hard not to take it personal, but then you have to sort of separate, look at the whole situation you're in,
yeah, the
and
bigger
say, well,
picture.
it's not personal, it's just the way the world is, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I always, like what I've been telling all the students recently who are going to be looking for jobs, like, you have to open your mind up to opportunities. You can't just be stuck with this tunnel vision that this is what I'm going to do. And this, like, there's so many different paths that we have to go down to eventually find where we want to be. And it might take years, it might take a couple months, but I've always said, like, just be open to new things and trying new things to kind of, you know, get to where you need to be in life, really.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. And what about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, so for me, rather than biggest, I'd say there was two key things really. So sort of over the last 12 months or so, so like I think the first thing was probably to do with time management. Because personally I had so many things going on. So, you know, outside of my role on this, I run my own business where we deliver courses and things like that. I was studying towards my MBA at the university, so I was doing that part-time. I'd obviously got the role with WLV Sport as well, alongside trying to get my own fitness goals and other things prioritized. And I was supposed to be getting married, and you name it. There's so many things going on, and I found that, am I juggling too much? Am I, you know, I think, like, I know it sounds horrible, but when you're a bit younger, sort of the 18, 19, you can take on the world, and it's like, wow, I can do all these things and juggle. And I did find there was a lot of strain. So days seemed to be getting stretched longer and longer, and I just felt deflated and tired all the time. And what I found was, again, writing down everything will help me get back on track. So, you know, if your nutrition starts going out, or your hydration and things like that, all those smaller factors, which you can think, oh, I'll give that up to get on with something else, they're all important, essential things that you need to keep working with and keep doing to keep you on the focus and keep you performing at the level that you do. So the time management and thinking of their own principles, and, you know, I touched on it a bit earlier where I said about writing things down and how I've taken things from a bodybuilding perspective of a plan and applying it to my life, almost like a personal development plan in a way, but on a daily basis. I found that that really helps me. And at the start of the day, you know, I mean, I've got my list in front of me here that are the things that I've got to get through today and different inquiries and things that I've got to deal with. And I find that that for me works really well. I'm not saying it's a one size fits all and you do that and all your problems will be solved. But for me, that's one thing that I found worked massively. And the second thing I think was trying to show leadership at times like this. So, you know, other colleagues that I work with, and, you know, going back to all the different, you know, we talk about that boat again, of different, you know, how people face different things. I think, you know, I've got my problems as well, and it's trying to not sugarcoat and say that I'm the perfect person and trying to lead others, but trying to understand it from my perspective and letting me know that, yeah, I am allowed to struggle as well. It's not a case of always putting on a front and trying to guide people and give them the best advice that you can in a leadership role, but also understanding the fact that, yeah, I'm human just like anybody else. I can go through these things, and I need to understand that my mental health is just important as anybody else's. So being that leader in a way that's empathetic, and, you know, I'll always pick up the phone and go through things with anybody that wants to talk to me, and I will give them that time. But it's also knowing that I can get that from somebody else as well. And, you know, not just because you guys are on here, but we have got a brilliant team within WLV Sport. You know, we pull each other up when we need things, we help each other out. And that's the great thing about being in sport, I guess. We all are very good at working together as a team. You know, and that's not just this level, that's, you know, sort of management, senior management, and the whole university ethos, really, of what they provide us with during these times. And, you know, I'd say we're one of the lucky people to be with such a good employer that, you know, does look after you and has that empathetic stance. And, you know, we can only really be grateful for that. But yeah, they're my two key biggest challenges, I'd say, over the last 12 months.
Yeah, and again, I agree completely with everything that you've both just said. And when you think about the university in general, I mean, our whole department are in student-facing roles, really, and we see a lot of the students coming in on a daily basis. And although we can't sort of give formal advice on stuff, I think it's sort of well known that we'll support any student out there, whether it's for a quick 5 minute chat. And it doesn't have to be about anything specific, but it's more or less just to say, we are here for you. I mean, most of us have been in their shoes, have completed graduate degrees, know what it's like to go through these different challenges. Maybe not as such going through this current challenge of COVID, because nobody has ever faced it before, but just in general. So the last sort of closing remarks are, what support out there is there for anyone who's struggling? Ariana, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah. So anyone that's sort of struggling at home, obviously you're studying online, you're unable to play team sports, you're unable to go to the gym. It's just knowing that this is temporary, it's not forever. And they may not go back to normal how they were before, but they will, you know, at least 90% of it, we will get there. And we're always going to go through different things throughout our entire living beings anyway. So it's just how we deal with it, but it will go back to normal. And just looking after your mental health and your physical well-being as well. And that's key to overcoming this pandemic at the end of the day. So going for a walk, call your mom, bake the cake, eat the ice cream. You know, you can have those days when you need it. And obviously, again, it's important to talk to somebody and release some of that built up emotion. So you don't have. So, for instance, you know, it doesn't even have to be. Some people actually feel more comfortable speaking to a stranger. I know, like, I have like my best friends and things, but sometimes there's stuff that I just don't want to talk about with them, because it always turns around into like not judge. Some people will see it as like judgment, you know, especially with your family. So you know, there are charities, there's, especially for like anybody under 25, so any students now like watching, there's like the Mix and Young Minds. There's so many different mental health charities for your age specifically, and obviously, you know, it is non-judgmental advice, and it can also help and give you that relief of that overwhelming feeling that you might have. And literally, it could just be saying just this one thing that's on your mind, and that just like completely gives you that relief in overall. And yeah, so obviously Lee will put up some of these websites on after, and obviously we're here as well. Hopefully, you know, you can talk to us on Zoom, or we'll be back in the office, in the sports development office on the Walsall campus. You can come in and have a chat to any of us there. So yeah, there's always a door open, and you know, even if it's speaking to us or speaking to someone from a charity, or you do have that friend, just speak to them and don't close off completely, because it will build up and eat you.
And Dan, do you know what support there is on campus? I know we've all touched upon the support from ourselves, but what other support is there on campus?
Yeah, so if you're a student or member of staff, for example, at the university, you should have picked up a thing from WLV Sport, which is a list of classes that we're now running, which is about 14 classes a week, all at different times of the day. And I'm sure if Lee's going to link this somewhere, we could perhaps include that in there as well. But there's a number of different exercises from low intensity to high intensity, things to do from the desk in front of you, even if you just need a break. So it's definitely worth logging into some of those. There's a chat function on there as well, so you'll be able to talk with other participants of the class. But I think one important thing to note is that if you're a student of the University of Wolverhampton, they've got you covered. I mean, the amount of talks that we have in our management meetings as a whole organisation, the key focus is the student and the student being first priority. So there's so much support out there. Staff amongst all the university, not just within WLV Sport, will be happy to help any student that needs support. So reach out for it at the end of the day while you've got it. There's always going to be somebody there with open arms to help you out. So, just get in touch, and take use of all the great things what the university's putting on for you.
Definitely. And after this video, I will post some links as to different support networks that you can get in touch with if you are struggling. But just to finish on a last sort of nice note, what are you both looking forward to most when normality returns?
I'll let you go first.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of me and Dan, the gym. And then, but I will, to be fair, I actually will do a lot more outdoor exercise, obviously, when the weather's a lot better. But I did enjoy some of that aspect personally, just getting out and doing like a hit in the park. So I'm going to keep that going. I got a pair of boxing gloves and some pads for my birthday last year in May. I still haven't used them. They're still brand new. So I'm looking forward to actually getting into the boxing gym and getting some use out of them. And obviously meeting students and colleagues on campus. Those are like my things that I'm looking forward to.
I wouldn't like to be on the other end of those gloves.
My new boxing gloves. Yeah.
After all the pent-up frustration after the last 12 months.
Oh, yeah.
What about yourself, Dan? Or is Ariana hit the nail on the head?
I think she has. I think she has for most of the questions, to be fair. I think we're all on the sort of same wavelength with this. I think for me, it's that, that feeling of saying, let's meet for a coffee will actually be meeting for a coffee. I think, other than doing it in this virtual thing where you've got technology and, if you've not done the housework, for example, I mean, my background's not too bad at the moment, but, it's just nice to get out there and socialise with people. And, I've missed my colleagues as well. There's no denying it. I haven't seen them for a long time. It's good to catch up with them and hear how, they're advancing. And I think that's one great thing that working in this environment does. You like to hear good news from people that are progressing and moving on. So, I'm quite looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for joining me. Obviously, today we've been talking about mental health in general and sort of techniques that we've used over the past 12 months or so whilst we've been in lockdown. But I suppose a key note is not to find what works for yourself. And obviously, if you are struggling, don't keep it to yourself and talk to somebody, whether that's somebody you trust, whether that's somebody you don't know, or whether it's a professional.
Yeah,
definitely.
Right, thanks, guys.
No problem.
Thanks, Lee.